You guys, this is Anne Marie, the anti-HR HR lady, and I want to have a little conversation that may not make everyone watching this video feel good, but it's a conversation that I think needs to be had, and it's a topic that keeps coming up in a lot of consultations I have with my clients, and I think we have to have a conversation about the fact that some of us, and when I say us, I mean black and brown people, the quote, people of color. And I don't consider black people, especially black Americans, are not people of color, we're black people. But all the other non-black people in American corporate workspaces. I want to talk to some of you, and if it doesn't apply to you, then feel good about that. But if you feel triggered by anything that I'm saying, then I'm probably talking about you, and you need to unpack that. And you need to seriously figure out how to do differently and how to do better. It is very clear to anyone that understands white supremacy and racism in the United States that anti-black racism is the foundation of all other isms in American society. And without the civil rights movement, all other groups besides black Americans would have no rights in the United States. The United States did not even start to allow immigration of black and brown people into this country until after many of the civil rights laws were passed. That's a fact. You can go look it up. Google is your friend. So it pains me to hear and see, and I've experienced a lot of this myself, black and brown immigrants coming into the United States and engaging with corporate workplaces and aligning themselves with whiteness and against black Americans in workplaces. And I understand where a lot of it comes from. I mean, most of these countries, continents, Asia, Southeast Asia particularly, but all of Asia, and Africa as well, were colonized. So while your ancestors may not have been enslaved physically, some of y'all, your minds were colonized and your countries were colonized. And some of them continue to be controlled by European countries from a financial perspective and socially. And so there's this desire for proximity with whiteness that has been taught over centuries to people from India, China, even though China was never colonized, but Chinese immigrants come to the United States, and we see a lot of this as well in that population, and African immigrants and Caribbean immigrants. And I speak of this as a person who was raised by West Indian parents. I'm a first generation American. I was born in the United States, and I consider myself to be blackity black, as I tell people all the time. That's how I feel. I don't call myself West Indian American, a Caribbean American. I'm black American. But I have interacted with many other people from the Caribbean diaspora who do everything they can to try to say that they're not black like black Americans, and I'm Caribbean American, and I'm this American. No, you're black. And I want to say very clearly to you, all of you, that white proximity will not save you. They don't consider you to be equal to them any more than they consider black Americans, and they don't like you better. And so actively and intentionally seeking proximity to whiteness may harm your black American brothers and sisters, but it's not going to save you at the end of the day. And so I really want to speak to those of you who feel that you're superior in some way to black Americans and come to the United States and look down on black Americans, come into workplaces, and when you receive promotions and positions of authority, actively oppress black Americans. Stop it. Cut it out. Because eventually, as the late great Paul Mooney said, every black person in America, black or brown, you're going to get your nigga wake up call eventually. All of us have had to have it. No matter how far up the pool we went and how high up we think we are, we all get the wake up call eventually. And it's painful whenever it comes. It's especially painful when you didn't expect it because you thought that you were somehow different or better. You're not. All of us as black and brown people are not treated or considered on par. And I don't care whether you think you are model immigrant or whatever it is. I don't care how many degrees you have, what university you went to, you're not better. And ultimately, you'll learn that you're not better. But it is not okay to inflict oppression on other people that look like you because you think that you're better than them somehow. And because you think that your white counterparts tell you that you're articulate and you speak well and you're not like them. When a white person tells you that you're not like them, that's not a compliment. It's not a compliment. Don't think it's a compliment. But they will use you against your own if you let them. And too many of us in workplaces, including some of us who are Black American, we desire proximity to whiteness, and that desire allows us to do things that are unconscionably horrible. I can tell you that my very first encounter with a discriminatory hostile work environment was at the hands of a Black American woman. So I'm not just talking to those of you who are immigrants. I'm talking to all of us as Black people and all of us as Black and brown people. But I'm especially talking to those who call themselves people of color and those with immigrant backgrounds, because there's a lot of this happening. I have a lot of potential and clients who are coming out of tech. Black women in tech are catching hell, and they're usually catching hell from immigrant supervisors who are doing the dirty work for their overseers, okay? And I really want us to recognize that this is happening in our communities and be willing to face up to it and agree to do something about it. When you catch yourself thinking that another Black person is problematic and you somehow feel superior to them, you need to stop and ask yourself why and where that is coming from. If somebody is messing up at work, you should pull them to the side and try to help them to do better, rather than aligning yourself with your overseers and trying to push them out of their job, right? There are too many who are doing that kind of thing in American workplaces, and it is very destructive. And at the end of the day, it's not going to save you, and it's not going to make them like you better. So at the end of the day, what is the point? Why do it to others that are in the same group as you? And when I say that, I mean we're all ethnic minorities in the United States. And at the end of the day, that is how we are all treated. And while there might be levels to that sucker, white supremacy is white supremacy. And too many of us are doing the work where they don't even have to do it themselves anymore, because we're doing it for them. We're allowing ourselves to be used as perpetuators of white supremacy in white corporate workspaces and American workspaces. And we have got to cut that out, because it's really harming us as a group. And it is used to divide us so that they can continue to be at the top of the food chain. And so I really want to say to you guys who are working in these spaces, check yourselves. So I really would like us to, as people of color, those of you who consider yourself to be people of color, and I'm not talking to Black Americans here, I'm talking to everyone else who considers themselves to be people of color, whether they can call themselves African immigrants, or you're Asian American, or whatever you call yourself. Don't be a tool of white supremacy in the name of white proximity, because white proximity, in the end of the day, it's not going to save you. And you may allow yourself to be used as a tool against other people, especially Black Americans in the workplace. But at the end of the day, your wake-up call is coming. And who's going to align themselves and support you when you have done nothing to support anybody else in advancement of whatever your career goals might be? So I really hope that more of us will stop and realize that we have a responsibility to do better in this regard. I see too many and hear too many stories of people coming into workplaces and thinking that it's okay to pile on Black Americans as they try to climb the ladder. And I've experienced it personally myself from people from immigrant populations. And I'll talk more specifically about this in the weeks and months to come, because I really feel at the end of the day, we're stronger together, and we need to figure out that all of these ideas that we have about each other only at the end of the day promote and support one group of people continuing to be at the top. And as long as they can keep us disliking each other and hating on each other, then they get to stay at the top and no one questions it. So we need to make sure that whether we are African immigrants, Caribbean immigrants, Latino Americans, Asian Americans, whether we're from Southeast Asia, Central Asia, Western Asia, Northern, whatever, colonialism and white supremacy has wreaked havoc everywhere in the world throughout history. And it has impacted every single group of Black and brown people, whether you're, even if your ancestors didn't come to the United States and were enslaved and expected to build a whole country and society, but your ancestors probably were colonized in their country. And so this idea of white proximity and whiteness being better and being the thing that everyone aspires to and seeks is a part of colonialism. And so I think that we need to recognize where some of these things come from and work to do and behave differently. Because doing it is not just detrimental to the people you're inflicting it on, ultimately it's detrimental to you as well. And so I hope that you guys have been given something to think about, that all of us have been given something to think about, because this is something that I've had to work through myself as well, based on how I was raised, to realize what it really was at the root of some of the things that I would hear people say about Black Americans, and come to realize that it was really from a place of colonialism and a desire for white proximity. And so this is not just me saying, you have a problem. We all have to face that this is an issue that we need to really recognize, because it impacts how we treat each other, especially in the workplace, and we need to do better in that regard. This is Anne Marie, the Anti-HR HR lady. I hope that this conversation or this little spiel that I've had has given all of you watching this something to think about. This is Anne Marie, the Anti-HR HR lady. HR is not your enemy, but they're definitely not your friend. I am. I'll see you in the next video.